But the argument over what kind of bloodbath Trump meant, I think misses the point, which is that for a long time, Trump has sent these signals that his followers know how to listen to. In other words, they're dog whistles of sorts, in that to some people who are completely abstracted from the politics of Trump, they might think nothing of it. But Trump's followers know about we're going to be in the streets.
In this video, David Pakman is interviewed by UK podcaster Eli Hassel. Eli Hassel brings up the topic of the media's distorted coverage of Donald Trump and his words, and this obviously makes David Pakman uncomfortable. With that, let's watch a British host make woke David Pakman look like a fool.
Election interference hush money trial that is currently underway. I spoke to Elie Honig recently. He's a CNN legal analyst and former prosecutor. He was quite convincing in suggesting that while it is absolutely clear what the law is and that Trump broke it, this has not yet been determined by a jury, but in his lay law person opinion, that if circumstances were different in terms of the general environment of scofflaw criminality from Trump, a more popular or less apparently criminal individual may not have been charged in the hush money election interference case. So that seems reasonable to me. I think that that's possible. When the New York quote hush money case was first indicted, it felt to me like the least serious of the cases. Not everybody agrees with me, but big picture, these are very serious indictments, extraordinarily well sourced when it comes to evidence, and certainly no evidence whatsoever that the Democratic Party or the Biden administration have any connection to it, despite Trump claiming that ad nauseum.
So whether Biden or the Democratic Party had any connection to it, do you think raising all of this up all together, all at very similar timing, just before he was run, does that mean anything to you?
I don't buy the timing argument. The reality is that it normally takes a year to multiple years to really pull together complex indictments. Some of the wrongdoing that Trump is accused of having committed and indicted for actually took place relatively recently. And so depending on which of the charges you're talking about and who you ask, it was either done too quickly or not quickly enough. And so I really don't buy the timing argument as being particularly.
David Pakman's a liar. There's no evidence that the Democrats and Joe Biden have any connection to this. How about the fact that Letitia James ran on, quote unquote, getting Trump? How about the fact that Alvin Bragg upgraded a misdemeanor to a felony just for Donald Trump? Not to mention, David, you just helped make our case for us. You said if circumstances were different and it was a less criminal individual, they would not be indicted. So how can you be less criminal than Donald Trump? He's 77 years old and never had a problem with the law. You don't buy the timing argument. I always forget the number, 88 or 93 indictments, 5 months, 12 months prior to the election of the opposition's leading candidate. You don't think timing has anything to do with it, just all coincidence. You are a liar. Let's get back to the video.
Particularly compelling.
What about the one that Trump goes along saying that if he wasn't president, this wouldn't have happened to him?
Well, it is undeniable that as a general concept, if Trump had not run for president and brought his habitual scofflaw style flouting of the law from the business world to the political world, he and his family would not be dealing with any of this stuff right now. That I agree with. Now, I think you're getting at a little bit of a different point, that people are targeting him because they didn't like his actions as president. I don't believe that to be true in the way that you're saying it. But certainly, Trump often says to crowds, I didn't have to do this. I had a perfectly fine life before. I could be playing golf or whatever right now. I think that that's true. I do think that he, for decades, was used to skirting the law. I mean, think of the fraud case in New York where he overstated the values of his properties in order to generate more valuable assets against which to get loans. I'm sure he's been doing that his entire career. His former lawyer, Michael Cohen, told me that he's been doing that his entire career. Becoming president and taking those sorts of actions out of the private eye and putting them into public eye certainly called attention to them, and it was in that sense a bad decision for Trump. That I agree with.
So on this particular property case, let's delve into this a bit more. I don't know as much about it. I presume you know much more about it. But I saw Kevin O'Leary going on, I think it was on CNN. You might have seen the clip, him going on CNN and saying this is basically what most property developers do, which is what they try and make their properties seem much more valuable than it's worth in order to get a higher loan. Is that correct?
Yeah, I did not see the clip, and again, I'm taking your word for what he said. It sounds like a version of lots of people commit this crime and not everybody gets punished for it, which isn't a particularly compelling defense to me.
So what?
I agree with you, David. That isn't a very compelling defense. But if there's even question if he did commit a crime, or if he did commit a crime and no one ever gets charged with it, and the banks were all paid back with interest, no one was harmed, you don't think it's a little unusual that he got charged with that? You're so disingenuous. Oh, and I didn't realize you had such a credible source as Michael Cohen. Wow, he has a total lie in his entire life. And by the way, you again reiterated that when Donald Trump says, I could be playing golf and living my best life, I don't have to go through all this. That's why we like him. Assassination attempts, impeachments, Russia collusion, attacked by the Republicans, the Democrats, the media, every single minute of every single day, trying to lock him up in jail. Yet he still cares about this country enough and believes he can make a positive impact that he still wants to be president. That's called resilience. That's why we like him. You wouldn't understand that concept. And what I meant when you say you just reiterated the point I was making earlier is you're acknowledging that if he wasn't running for president, he wouldn't have all these indictments. So they are targeting him. Get out of here. Anyway, let's get back to the video.
Exactly. Did the banks fully check him, or he totally frauded them?
So the what was found was that there were completely imaginary property values stated for the purposes of using properties as collateral for loans, while on the other hand, outrageously low property values were being argued for the purposes of reducing property tax bills. That's the genesis and the fundamental, I guess, aspect of that fraud trial.
Okay. So the other week, Trump was highly reported as saying he was calling for a bloodbath in America, and a lot of the media went really on him for that, a bit crazy on him for that. But I watched a full clip, and it actually looked like he was calling for a bloodbath in the auto car industry, which is very, very, very different. What did he actually say? And does he often get picked off by the media, like by them taking him out of context?
Well, there's two elements to this. The full comments that Trump made were that he was not calling for, but
if you like watching videos like this one, like and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. Let's get back to the video.
But predicting a bloodbath in the sense that if Joe Biden gets elected, automakers will be left with tons of unsold vehicles, and it will be terrible economically for them. I reported it as I just described it to you. I made it clear that Trump's narrow comments did contextualize the term bloodbath within the auto industry. But the argument over what kind of bloodbath Trump meant, I think misses the point, which is that for a long time, Trump has sent these signals that his followers know how to listen to. In other words, they're dog whistles of sorts, in that to some people who are completely abstracted from the politics of Trump, they might think nothing of it. But Trump's followers know about we're going to be in the streets and come with me to the Capitol and all of this sort of language. So to me, the honest way to cover it would be to say, here's the totality of what Trump said in these comments. And of course, there's a long history of Trump dancing around pseudo-violent language, and his supporters very much know what the language means. That to me seems like the honest way to cover it. Not everybody did it that way. That's the way I did it.
So would you call that as them taking him out of context?
In terms of how other media outlets reported it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I don't remember how each media outlet reported it, but I do remember thinking that some were not providing that context. It would be wrong not to provide that context for sure.
You mentioned January.
Is that right, David? You don't remember how they reported it? You don't remember the term bloodbath being attributed to why he'll be Hitler and end democracy and all that stuff? You don't remember every single news outlet using that as dangerous rhetoric out of Trump's mouth? I don't care how you covered it, but I am glad I watched to the end of this video because I'm actually a Trump supporter, and David informed me of something I wasn't aware of. I guess he's giving out secret signals when he talks, so pseudo-violent signals at that. So I need to get on a message board or something and get the key, for these secret codes so I know when to get into the streets. Oh my God, this guy's so disingenuous. But we want to hear from you. What do you think? Do you think that maybe sometimes the media takes Donald Trump out of context? I'm hoping and thinking that I know what the majority of the answers will be, but if you don't think the media does that and I'm missing something, I'm open to having my opinion changed. Maybe I missed something. Let us know. Anyway, that's it for this video. As always, we really appreciate you watching, and we will see you on the next one.